Outside this time for today. I've been inside all day doing invites and follow-ups, but came out here. Sometimes I come out here. This is kind of like this is like part of my why list, to have like one of these homes here. Big old house with a bunch of bedrooms, so I could have my family come and fill it all up and hang out. So today I'm going to talk about how to share your story, something that I always said I wasn't really good at. I always said I didn't have a story, but one thing I learned, what's up, Jess, is the power of story. You know, Keith's really great at that. A lot of these leaders are, unbelievable at sharing their story and sharing other people's story. People don't really relate to facts so much. They connect more with story, at least 85% of people. So I'm going to share a little 4-step process for sharing your story. Oh, my phone's probably going to die here. So this is something I learned from Eric Worre. So the first step is to share your background. A little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do for work. The second step is sharing the things you didn't like about your past, or maybe the things you currently don't like about your current situation. The third is the solution you found. So for you guys, it would be like the workout program, Shakeology, the business opportunity. And then the fourth step is, why you're so excited about that. So what most Beachbody coaches do is they live in step 3 and 4. They talk about how excited they are about the workouts, about the business opportunity, and that stuff's great. But really where you connect with people is step number 2. Talking to them about the struggle, the things that you don't really love about your current situation or your past situation. So when I was at this Eric Worre event, one thing we did was he made us get up and go meet someone we had never met before, and we had to share our 4 steps, those 4 steps of our story. And it was cool. Like, I got to connect with this person I had never met before, and then we went and sat back down, and he had us raise our hand and say, like, hey, called on someone. He said, how'd you feel about that connection you just had with that person? I called on a few people, and everyone was like, it was pretty cool. Like, I got to know them. I got to know a little bit about their background and, a little bit about their struggle. And then he had us go and find someone new that we had never met before. And this time, he made us only talk about number 1 and 2 and really put an emphasis on that second step, the struggle. So I got to meet this person I'd never met before. They told me a little bit about their background and what their big struggle was. And they just talked a little bit about that. And then we sat back down and he called on a few people. And honestly, like, everyone that raised their hand and talked said that they felt like they had known that person their entire life. They felt so connected to that person. And then he made us sit back down and go find someone else to talk to. And this time we only got to talk about 3 and 4, like what we were so excited about, the solution we found. That's all we were allowed to share with the person. We sat back down. He called on a few people. He said, hey, what'd you guys think? And me personally, I was like, I thought it was pretty cool. The person was excited, but I didn't feel any connection to that person. Honestly, I couldn't relate to them. I didn't really feel like it was someone that I wanted to continue to chat with. So this is like a lesson that I learned the hard way, that if you're only out there talking about how excited you are about the products and about the business opportunity, you're never going to connect with anybody that way. If you really want to connect with someone, you got to talk to them about your background and the things you didn't like about it, or the things you currently don't like about it, that struggle. One thing I'll talk a lot about is you got to meet people in the shit. You got to meet people in the crap. Like, if you can go and talk about the things that you're currently struggling with, or things you didn't struggle with, now they can relate to that, because that's where they are. They're in that crap right now, and that's where the rapport is built, the trust is built, and then they're willing to listen to the solution. So that's one thing I learned. And the other thing is, you guys might think you don't have a story. It doesn't have to be like this huge story. When you share your story, it doesn't have to be this long, drawn-out thing. It can be tiny little stories. So, like, what Keith is unbelievable at is when he's training and teaching, he finds like these little stories in his past, or maybe he'll borrow someone else's story to really emphasize the point. Like, I'll use my little story of, when I was selling the magazine subscriptions when I was like 10 years old, going and knocking on doors. That little story is a great way to teach someone how consistency and persistence pays off. instead of me just telling them you got to be consistent and persistent, I can tell them that little story about how I was 10 years old and I had to go knock on doors and everyone told me no, but I kept knocking. I'd go to the next door, they'd say no, I'd say, I'd just say thank you and move on. And I knew that if I knocked on enough doors, eventually, I'd find enough people that wanted to get on board. So that's just an example of, you don't have to blow up this huge giant story. It can be these tiny little ones. Another one being, when I was probably 24, 25, I was on a conference call with, one of my bosses, and he kind of like yelled at me for something. And, I remember just on the drive home being like, F that guy, F this, I'm done working for other people. And, when I shared that story on social media, so many people connected to that and related to that because they feel the same way about their boss or about working for somebody else. So meet people where they're at, meet them in the shit, meet them in that crap, and they're going to connect to what you're talking about. They're going to be able to relate to what you're talking about, and then they're willing to listen to the solution. So 4-step process. Again, share your background, share the struggle, what you didn't like about it, what you currently don't like about it. Then you can talk about the solution, and then you can talk about why you're excited and where you're headed with that. So I hope that helps, guys.